Jails Law Enforcement Courts Committee meeting is called to order. The first item, Ms. Patty, would you call the roll?
Patrick Deakins.
Here.
Lisa Ecke.
Here.
Willie Lemming.
Here.
Eva Madison.
Here.
Shannon Marty.
Here.
And Lance Johnson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. The next item is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Thank
Second.
you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The agenda is adopted. The next item on the agenda is item number 3, the juvenile detention report. Director Collins, do you want to come up and give us a report?
Good evening. Hi. The report is as follows, is what you have in your packet. The only notable thing I would say is that the intakes were down. We only had 18 intakes for the month of February, so yay.
Looks like your count has stayed very steady, maybe down a little bit. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Does anybody have any questions for Director Collins?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Major Densler, are you the man tonight?
Well, I believe the chief, or the captain's going to speak on the chief's behalf.
Okay.
How y'all doing tonight? Good. Instead of him logging in on Zoom and trying to get all that set up, he wanted me to go and get a report. He didn't have anything sufficient to, anything big changes or anything like that from the last one. Only had some numbers going down, but that was about it, a report that he sent out. Unless y'all have some questions, and hopefully I can answer them. If not, we'll have to get a hold of them.
Are there any questions? Again, it looks like the activity is down just a little bit across the board to me.
Yes, it is down all the way across the board a little bit, and some of it might be due to some of that weather we had last month, so.
I mean, it just seems so nonsensical. I mean, and it was just, so it's bad weather, no, I'm not gonna go break into somebody's house, no, it's just.
Well, I don't wanna leave my house.
I know, it just, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Behavior modification, huh?
Yep.
Weather modification. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Our numbers are down, also down a little bit. It was only 28 days of reporting and cold weather. And even the bad guys don't get out in cold weather and snow. That's the only thing that slows the jail down. If you never have some weather like that. But that's hard on everybody. You can see the numbers. They are starting to take a few to prison now. We've got a system worked out where we can test them and haul them down. We took down 15, and I think there's another group scheduled. So that'll help our numbers. The 4.3, you can see, it just shows, like I say, all the numbers are down a little bit, except our free trials. It's good, yes, it's really good, or they're taking some to the, Arkansas Department of Corrections, because our pre-trials are always coming up. You know, you remember Ann, always, that was her magic question,
Yeah.
and we are, we're about up to almost 300 pre-trials now. We was at 400 back when we was at, before the COVID. 4.4, you can see where we did book less people in, less people around, everybody was staying home. Then on 4.5 on the graph, as you can see, the pre-trial on the bottom is bumped 300, a little over, and we was at 200, we jumped 100, and there's more people out getting caught. And then with our numbers down low, I still have 31 people sleeping on the floor. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Justice Deakins.
Thanks, sir. Do you have any idea, I guess you guys follow CDC guidelines for separating and spacing and all that kind of stuff?
Yes.
So you're basically kind of at the mercy, like the rest of us are, of when those can open up? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why people are sleeping on the floor right now, is that correct, due to the quarantine?
Yes, that's a big part of it, because everybody has to be quarantined. And, you know, I believe, for sure, I think the last 3 weeks, we didn't have any positives, either for employees or detainees, but, you know, it kind of rolls in. Everybody at Fayetteville, Springdale, any that brings into us, they have to be quarantined for 14 days, and then they're tested. And sometimes you'll get a positive, sometimes you won't, but even that is down for like 3 weeks, but yes. And then, you know, when they do come in positive, then that's a block by itself, and you have to take them negatives to another block. I mean, it's a long drawn out mess is what it is.
Gotcha.
But you've got about 9 blocks tied up, running them through the system so they actually get free to go back to general population.
Great, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One quick question. One quick question.
Justice Hagan.
Has all the staff been vaccinated?
Not everybody. It was offered to everybody. And
Okay,
I think
but it
we're-
was offered to everybody,
Yes, it was
correct?
offered, and we just got ours starting, right at the end of December and January.
End of December, okay.
When it starts, so yeah, everybody.
So, but if your office is finished, you know, those that chose to
Yes,
did and those that didn't, so
right.
how are we doing that with the inmates? Is that being offered to them?
No, it's not being offered to them
Okay.
at this point, because they don't fall on the guidelines, you
Right.
know, where you can get it, what your, age and what tier you fall in.
Okay, just didn't know what category they fell in. Thank you.
Justice Madison.
Thank you. Major Denzer, I have a question about, with respect to jail accreditation standards, are there any of those standards that would affect how the jail handles COVID, I guess, once restrictions are lifted? Does accreditation enter into that at all?
I just barely can hear you. Said, does that affect accreditation?
I'm just trying to figure out, like, if Patrick or JP Deakins made reference to CDC guidelines, which are guidelines, and I'm just curious if there are no restrictions in place, but the pandemic is still a risk, is there any obligation under accreditation standards that would affect how we handle the pandemic?
No, I mean, we're not, accredited, but, through our jail standards and through CDC and the health departments, what we're following, to try to keep the detainees and officers safe. I may not have
I guess
answered your
that I used the wrong term, but that's what I was talking about, just in terms of the standards that we follow. Would there be something additional that the jail would have to follow if, say, restrictions were lifted later in the spring?
Well, if all of them is the restrictions we wouldn't have to follow from CDC, then, the sheriff would make a decision at some point where we didn't quarantine. The hard part about it is if we don't quarantine, one person could give it to, like today, 550 people. He or she went in a block and was positive and we didn't know about it. So that's going to be a tough decision, It's gonna be way down the line before you can say that you cannot test these people or put them in quarantine.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, even as restrictions are lifted, I think that the jail has a unique set of issues that make exposure more problematic. And so just because people may be able to go eat in restaurants, I'm not saying that we, start packing them in again. I was just trying to think about what standards might apply for you all, but I appreciate the information.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions for the major? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randall.
You're welcome.
Next on our agenda, Mr. Nick Robbins is going to speak to us. Nick was here about 2 years ago and talked to us about his organization, which is called Returning Home.
Yes.
And he has got some other ideas that he wants to talk to us about.
I apologize, JP Madison. I didn't even think about emailing this out.
Thank you.
Nick,
Can't take
for those of us that have to read lips, you're doing,
Okay.
that's,
All right. Appreciate the opportunity to come kind of share about what I'm extremely passionate about. Again, it was quite a while ago. We've all experienced quite a bit. And what I would say is the area of the justice system hasn't gone away, and it actually has been has more light on it lately. So for us, that's exciting because it gives us the opportunity to kind of think more about how we can enhance the services that we provide to our community. Basic idea of what we do, Returning Home is located in Springdale. We're 703 North Thompson, right across from Neil's Cafe. We are a collaborative organization that in the building that we're in, we house multiple groups that all serve the same population that are coming from jail or prison. So any form of incarceration or having a criminal background that's hindering the future they desire, they can come to the Returning Home Center for services that we offer from job prep, job placement, food, clothing, housing, mental health services, and different referrals for outside. So that's the big thing that we're known for is we have a 67-bed transitional facility for men paroling directly from prison that are based on a risk assessment that are most likely to recidivate, meaning going back to prison after 3 years. So we serve those men for 90 days, providing a host of things, housing and med management and all the different items for them to be successful so that they can reduce their likelihood to recidivate. What I want to talk about today is kind of the program that we briefly talked about a couple years ago, and we've kind of refined what we're looking to do, and we're kind of excited about what we're going to be able to roll out hopefully this year. The Community Alternative Program, or CAP, is going to be for men and women that are on probation that have violated their probation, or men that have violated their probation without committing a new crime. So typically when you think of a prison system, you think of individuals that have committed serious crimes. But actually 45% of the people currently sitting in prison in the state of Arkansas have not committed a crime for why they're there. Every year, 45% of the people, about 7,500 people, go to prison for violating their supervision, standard supervision. So that could be not showing up to an appointment, that could be failing a drug test, that could be not paying fines and fees, failing in some programmatic fashion. So if anybody else in the community did any of those things, they would definitely not find themselves in prison. After talking to some judges recently, they kind of reached out and had an opportunity to sit down, and they just said, we would love to do something different in the judicial system in the Northwest Arkansas area, but currently we're out of options. We could either just ignore the behaviors that are going to lead to further crime, or we could send them to prison. And majority of the judges that I talked to said we would love for an alternative. And so what CAP would do is it would provide an opportunity for somebody to be sentenced to our program for 90 days in lieu of going to prison based on a violation. So this is somebody that, again, was struggling with life and imprisonment is never the answer to somebody struggling with life. In the area of key statistics that we have here, what makes our client base, what's common denominator for them, 79% of them experience trauma by the age of 12. 54% have been diagnosed with a serious mental illness, and on average, they have a less than a 6th grade reading and math level. And so the outcome of somebody struggling with cognitive behavior, struggling with mental illness, and struggling with significant trauma by the age of 12 is substance abuse, which 80% of our clients have experienced a substance abuse problem. So if that's the factor, if that's the core issue, imprisonment at no time addresses or is a deterrent to continue those behaviors. So what we look to do in our community setting is address those things. And we're doing it through trauma-informed counseling, relapse prevention program, cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, medication management, health and wellness goals, housing, employment, case management, healthy relationship classes, among others. And what we're able to do is we're able to provide all of those services for an individual at $60 a day. It costs $63 a day to house somebody in prison, sleeping on the floor. And it costs $64 a day to have somebody in the prison, or $63 for county jail and $64 in the prison system. And all those services are not available in those settings. So if we're wanting an individual to be the husband that we need him to be, the dad they need him to be, the son they need him to be, the wife we need him to be, the mom we need him to be, the daughter we need him to be, putting him in prison is never going to accomplish that goal. And so returning over the last 4 years has worked with numerous individuals. Just last year alone, 286 people lived in our building and went through our program. The people that we work with, it's a tough crowd. Sometimes the people you invest in the most do not respond the best, and kind of their take is, why didn't you do more for me to succeed? But then there's plenty of them, the majority of them, that just needed the pat on the back, the encouragement, that open door, and they're thriving. We're seeing men and women connecting with their children on a daily basis for the first time ever, paying child support for the first time ever. On a weekly basis, we have somebody for the first time ever start a job. I can't tell you how many people have gotten their birth certificate held in their hands for the first time ever. How many people that they've driven their whole life, but for the first time ever, they have a driver's license now. So there's just so many firsts, and what we do as a community, we expect a lot from people, but at no point do we come alongside them and get them to that point to where we can expect it of them. So at some point, we need to come alongside them and do life together. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Is there, do any of the participants at your facility, are they required, any of them required to wear ankle bracelet monitors?
Some of them, depending on their charges. Anything that probation and parole says, hey, this is what you need to do to meet the standards of parole, that, yeah, we would make sure that.
Okay, so you do have some of them?
Some of them, yeah.
Okay. I was just trying to get a picture of your.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And we had, so I pitched this program to the Benton County judges one day, and then 2 weeks later, somebody knocked on the door and said, hey, I've been sentenced to your program. I was like, no, we just talked about that's what we wanted to do. What are you doing here with no money to be able to provide this service? So we took somebody in, and what was interesting is this individual, he was in drug court in Benton County and not showing up to any of the appointments and not passing any drug tests. And when he walked into our building, he failed for 3 different types of drugs. And we, like we do with everybody, put him in quarantine, get a COVID test, let him come down from his current situation. And what's really exciting is for the last 7 weeks, this guy's passed every single drug test, every single week. He has worked from the first week he was there. We were able to get him employed. And he's connected with his children on a regular basis. And so everything that was expected of him, he had the capability. But he just needed to be in the setting that expected nothing less than success. And this individual, he was on his own in his own home, within his own abilities, was not going to make those choices. And so individuals like that, we know they have the ability. They're very intelligent folks. They just need somebody to come alongside them. One other thing that we're looking to do, and we've been working with Sheriff Elder and Judge Woods on how we would fund this. And right now, we're applying for a grant that it's probably like a 0.0001% chance we'll actually get it. But if it is, it'd be pretty amazing. It would actually fund this for 3 years. So we're hoping and we're praying and we're putting the things together to make this happen. And the goal would be, it would be a 10-bed pilot project. So what it would do is it would give the 4 main cities 10 different beds to utilize for people instead of sending them to incarceration, to place them with us. And then ultimately what we see as the future of this program is that each city that wants to participate, they would fund per capita the percentage of the program so that their judges and their probation officers would have that as a resource to be able to utilize that to help those folks in their community that, again, are not committing new crimes. These individuals that we're talking about right here are just individuals that are failing supervision. And so we don't want anyone to be incarcerated for struggling at life.
Justice Madison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the work you do, Mr. Robbins. My question is, do you currently receive any government funding at all?
Yes, we do. So we were able to get some of the CARES Act funding, as well as we get a little bit for food costs each year as well.
And does that come from the federal government or state or where?
Right. The federal government.
Okay. So am I correct in understanding that you're a faith-based program?
Yes, ma'am.
So what part of the services that you offer your clients are faith-based?
Just what's in my heart. We don't do any Bible classes. We don't do a church service. We're case managers. We provide housing. We provide cognitive behavioral therapy programming, and we provide counseling services. So our foundation is our faith, but we're not a church.
Do you accept people regardless of their faith?
Absolutely. The only thing they have to do is have committed crimes to be accepted.
Okay, because I mean, it's a great program. I'm just concerned about being the lawyer that took the First Amendment class on the establishment of religion. When you start funding faith-based programs with government dollars, I don't want to run afoul of a constitutional issue. So.
Yeah, all the federal funding we get, actually in the applications, faith-based programs are accepted applicants. So they are aware of what we do and where our foundation is at. But again, we don't fund any church services or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Justice Deakins?
I'm glad you're back. I'm excited about this. You know, for those of us who've sat on the court, the jail's been a major issue for a long time. It's only been, I think, postponed because of the pandemic, so I don't want us to lose sight of that. But I've got a couple questions for you. You know, we had a jail study done by the NCSC. The big drivers of our population are pretrial, and then the fact that the justice system is slow to churn through that population. So let me ask you, you're saying that if somebody was awaiting trial on a supervisory probationary violation, they would be eligible for this program?
Correct. So what we would look to do is we'd have 2 referral sources. It could either be the probation officer saying, hey, this is what I would like the end result to be. So with probation and parole, they have what's called OVGs, Offender Violation Guide. So once you hit 40 points, you're to be incarcerated. Each thing you do wrong, it adds a certain amount of points. And so what we look to do is get with them and figure out how many points can be reduced by completion of the program, and then also through the judges. So just a referral saying, hey, this person's about to come to me. I kind of looked over the case. This would make more sense if you did this. Anybody that is for a probation or parole violation, their situations go pretty quick. So we have the ability to, if somebody is in there for a week, just saying, hey, I would rather have him go here. Let me ask the judge if they're in support of it, and we can make that happen.
In lieu of them basically foreseeing out their case or whatever.
Yeah, instead of just sitting in jail, or instead of, and so what they would do is they just put a hold, and just say like, hey, once you complete the program, or once the program's finished, then we'll sit down and we'll have another discussion. So we've done that in the past with, primarily with, drug court clients.
Right.
So they suspend the drug court and any requirements for the court, and we have a parole officer that offices out of our building. So he's there 40 hours a week, and they would just, what they call courtesy visit, they would see that officer instead of the court itself, and then upon completion, then we just send a review that, hey, this person did well or didn't do well or whatever, and they can make their own determination of what to do after that.
So you're pretty comfortable that Washington County has a pool of individuals that would qualify for this?
Yeah, we get requests often. Yes, both drug courts have requested multiple times, hey, do you guys have any funding that you can set aside for our clients so that we have an avenue other than incarceration? And so that's the hope, is that we would be an asset to our community to defer to folks. Because like this individual that's with us now, like, it's important to me that he gets to see his kids. It's pretty awesome that we get to be a part of that, and we get to be counseling that, and we get to oversee that and make sure it's done in a healthy way. And so those are the type of things that we love to do.
Well, I don't necessarily need you to answer this tonight, but I'd be interested to know, what metrics do we use to prove that the program is successful? I mean, I like that you're using the term pilot program. You know, I mean, let's see how this works. I'm very interested in that. But to be, you know, I would like to know what metrics you would think were fair to see, you know, a year from now, a year deep into this program, is it working, is it effective, are we having some success to that? So I don't know if that's recidivism or new charges, or, you know, I mean, I don't know exactly what you would think would be the most useful ones.
For me, because the individuals that we'd be working with through this should be catching new charges anyways, so the hope would be rearrest. You would reduce the likelihood of rearrest. So you would take the individuals that we worked with and say, hey, in the last year, how many times were you had to be rearrested? So you had to go through the system, you had to go to jail, you had to get booking, you had to see a judge, you had to, you know, cycle through that. And then what would it look like, the reduction of it? So just so you know, in the state of Arkansas, if somebody catches a new charge, if they go to prison, they're going to serve on average 4 years and 11 months. And it's $24,000 a year, so we're looking at over $100,000 if one person goes in. And this program at 10 beds is $219,000. So out of the 50 individuals we'd be able to serve for the year, if 2 of them didn't go back, it would pay for itself. But obviously, out of 50, we sure hope to do a whole heck of a lot better than that.
So it's a 90-day program. I'm assuming that part of, you know, you're saying you have a lot of treatment and things like that, development. These individuals are looking for jobs after they complete the program, and some of your programs are trying to assist with that? What's that look? I mean, what's it look like when the person leaves your program? What's the hope there?
Yeah, work is a requirement. So within the first 2 weeks, you better be working if you're in my program. We've got partnered employers that we've had 100% employment rate during the pandemic. No one's going more than a couple weeks without a job. Because if you're walking through the door, one of my partner employers, you're getting hired because I sent you, not because whatever you have on application. So this individual, the expectations just for a day in the life of our clients, they're supposed to work 8 hours. They're supposed to go through 2 hours of programming. So 8 hours a day in work, 2 hours a day in programming. You got to do a daily chore, so it's a house chore. It could be clean the kitchen, it could be clean the toilets, whatever it is, get that signed off. You'll be doing your random drug tests, and then you'll have to clean your own room and get that signed off. And then we got a curfew at 9 o'clock, so we keep them extremely busy, and there's one thing they got to accomplish after the other to keep them moving forward.
Assuming you had the funding today, what's your turnaround time? Are you physically able to take these individuals right now?
Right now.
You're just absent the funding to support the program?
Yes, because it takes, so right now we've got the beds, but that's only that's only half the cost. There's programming costs. So if we do any more, we have to start hiring staff. So right now, during the pandemic, we went from 55 bed to a 67 bed facility, and we didn't increase staff. So we are like beyond where we should be at max. The one thing that's exciting is we're in the process in the next 2 weeks to close on a building that's being donated to us. It's actually directly behind us, 21,000 square foot warehouse that we're going to look to start renovating right away to open up some offices to be able on our end expand. and then eventually even dedicate a 32-bed facility for this program. So my heart is to get the 10-bed pilot, let's prove it, but then ultimately get to the 32-bed, because at the 10-bed, we're losing money, so we'll have to supplement it. At 32, it will be where we need to be, and we'll be able to pay our staff, and we'll be okay. But we'll look to supplement at the 10 beds.
So even financially, what the ask is a couple $100,000
Yeah, $219,000
for a year,
10 bed per year.
for a year of 10-bed facility.
Yeah.
And then your thought is that eventually we could partner with our municipalities and try to make that long-term.
My hope is I'm preparing for the next COVID stimulus package to come out. We qualify for the CARES Act for the services we offer. Every single thing we offer covers that, and we're looking to be available to make a proposal to each one of the cities. I already had one of the cities reach out to me today and say, "Are you ready?" And I'm, "Oh yeah, I'm ready." Great. And so we would do it per capita. So we'd split up the amount and hope to get, I can't speak for anybody because we haven't had those initial conversations, but hopefully get the 4 main cities on board and they'd be able to fund it. So what the county would do is the county would just upfront pay every month for it, and then the county would have the ability to recoup the cost from the cities typically. But if we were able to get the CARES Act funding, then we would just fund it because we're the nonprofit that can apply for the CARES Act funding. So there's a number of different things, and then there's the federal grant that, like I said, it would cover 3 years. So we're working on different things, and Sheriff Helder and Judge Woods have been good with us getting all the MOUs signed and everything we need to get accomplished. And right now we're working with ACC on the probation side to get the MOUs for them to get everything out there and point us in the right direction. So our big thing is we just, one, we want to know that the county is interested in saying, hey, we do want to pursue this. If you're going to sit down with the city, just know that you have our support, and that may be through letters of support, or it may be just connecting us to the right people that you'd have contacts with. But how often do we say, like, we want to do something different with these individuals, we want to do something different with the criminal justice system? At some point, we got to move forward.
Sure.
And I know I'm one of the members in the criminal justice coordinating committee. We've been meeting for 6 months. I'm waiting to get something going. I can't stop working. I still got to keep doing what I'm doing. So we're going to continue to pursue, and hopefully that committee will jump on board too at some point.
I can only speak for myself, but I'm very interested in it. I think it sounds very promising. I agree that we've got to try something, and we've got a service provider like yourself here in our backyard. I don't understand why we wouldn't leverage that for some of our needs. I don't know. I'll see what I can do. I don't know if that maybe, at the pleasure of the chair, we might write a resolution or something and pass it as a county.
Okay.
I think that would be a very stout way to get some municipal support behind you, and you just continue to feed us information. Let me know how I can help.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I would surely encourage any of my colleagues to go visit it. Nick gave me a personal tour 1.5 or 2 years ago, and I guess what I saw was a facility that they were able to give their clients whatever level of service and whatever level of help they needed, and it was just a very neat, very well organized operation, and I had no discomfort for sure walking through the place. They take care of business.
I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you in the old steel building?
Yes.
That's what it is. So the warehouse behind there is what you're planning on renovating?
Yes.
That's a large building. That's
It is.
exciting.
That
Big
is
vision.
really exciting, and it's a lot.
Yes, it is.
But it's been interesting. We came into the current steel building about 4.5 years ago, and just kind of saw what that vision could look like, and what it is today is far more than I ever imagined it could be. And so we're excited to be able to dream bigger with the expansion of what we'll call now as our campus.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
One more question. Those that are employed, do y'all drop them off and bring them back?
No, we have a partnership with Pedal It Forward, so they build bikes, and we give our guys bikes to ride. Everybody that is working, they're within 2 blocks
Okay.
of the employment. So we make sure it's realistic, because one, the individuals need to be able to, get there on their own.
Sure.
But even more so beyond us, we always ask them, what are you doing on day 91? So on day 91, they need to be able to get to work.
Yeah.
So we look for apartments for them close by, so they can still get to their thing, and there's probably too much information, but we do a thing called, pedal your way out of poverty. So there's a poverty mentality, and to be able to get beyond that, it takes transportation.
Yes.
So, to where if I can only walk, most likely I'm gonna pay $650 a month in an apartment that I do not feel comfortable in. But if I've got a vehicle, I can, drive 15 minutes, and I could get a place for $750, and it's a two-bedroom home. So the difference isn't that big, but we need to teach them how to be self-sustaining. And so that's what our classes are doing, going, what is your goal for today? What's your goal for next week? What are the things you're trying to accomplish? And we have this thing of go from a bike to a moped to a car in 90 days. And so they're all on that process, and they're achieving on a regular basis, which is pretty exciting to see that it's showing themselves that it's possible. We've had 2 guys leave our building and buy a house. So we just had a real estate agent in our building teaching a class, and we had 2 guys with enough money and a good enough credit score that they're already looking at some different properties. So these individuals, we're not sustaining their lives. Like, once we're gone, they're gonna fail. We're creating an opportunity for them to be successful far beyond us. So I always tell them, it's not about your comfort here, it's about your sustainability on day 91.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Robbins? Thank you much, sir.
Thank you. Much success.
All right, Miss Patty, do we have any public comment?
I do not see any hands raised. Oh, I have Lou Sharp.
We have a motion and it's to adjourn. Is there a second?
Johnson. I do have Lou Sharp.
Oh. Who's talking?
Patty, you had the public comment, Lou Sharp?
Lou Sharp.
Okay.
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Sharp, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It takes me a minute to take my mute button off. I just wanted to say that, that's really exciting to hear about returning home and the services they're providing. I've got 2 questions. Do they have the ability to accommodate any people from the transgender population? Just because I know of several situations where that's become an issue. And I was curious if there were any resources related to that. And then my second comment is, I'm really concerned about the fact that public comments are being so limited and relegated to the end of the meetings. And with some of the rules that are trying to be passed, where if something doesn't make it through committee, I can't bring it back up for an entire year. And as a public person, and I listened to the personnel meeting, I just think it's really important to collaborate also with the public, not just with the other elected officials, but also with the public. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Is there any other public comment, Miss Patty?
I do not see any hands raised. Debbie Johnson.
All right, thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
You all have a good night.
Good night, thank you.
Go to tour if you had
I would.
a chance.
I would love that. I think I was planning on it.